This week, BC Hydro announced plans to triple the size of their charging network. ChargePoint partners with General Motors to integrate the GM Energy Pass and plug and charge. And Tesla opens a 48 stall station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Let's get into it. I'm here at the Lake Norman charging spot, which is an up-and-coming charging location here in the Charlotte metropolitan area in Mooresville. And as you can see behind me, the main retail facility is now under construction and starting to take shape pretty quick. The chargers are halfway in place and operational. There are plug share posts of people charging here. And ChargePoint is in the news for a couple of things, and so I felt as though this was an appropriate place. It sure is nice, and I'm actually personally curious about the progress of this site, so when choosing a location to shoot, I wanted to come here just to kind of snoop around a little bit and see what kind of progress, and there's a lot faster movement here than I was expecting. So as you can see, the main facility behind us is going up. Okay, starting off, YouTuber car D-ologist, 3 different words combined together. He's a car YouTuber. I guess he's also a cardiologist, I'm not sure. Sent me pictures of locations in his neck of the woods. The first one is in Pembroke Pines, Florida, just west of the intersection of Flamingo Road and Pines Boulevard. 8 stalls. And West End, Florida, looks to be a Tesla V4 Supercharger with 8 stalls at 2274 West End Road. Let's take a look at those pictures. Thanks, cardiologist, for sending those along. It's always nice to see people bringing relevancy to the EV charging expansion. Sometimes when you do these macro updates, it kind of gets lost in the woods that we're affecting real people's lives with these EV chargers going into communities all around the United States. And it's when you go down to the micro level, it kind of helps bring that into relief. So I appreciate people sharing charging stations with me. Starting off, as I mentioned, ChargePoint and General Motors issued a press release indicating the integration with GM Energy Pass has been completed, which enables plug and charge. And it is so easy. I went through the process. It's literally, no joke, just a toggle switch inside the General Motors app. You just go into the app and you say yes for ChargePoint plug and charge. And I'm like, it can't be that easy. And so I actually went to a ChargePoint station when I first did it and shot a video for my personal channel just to prove that it works. And it did. It was like perfect. Very easy, very seamless. And let's do it here. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, inside on the infotainment, you just click on charging. And right here is the nearby stations, which should come up, and you can see the charging stations right there. Sure enough, let's see if it is one where you can select. See how they are all grayed out? This is kind of an annoyance. Station info, station photos, so on and so forth. It doesn't let you select them, and I don't know why. Some ChargePoint stations you can and actually initiate the charge through the infotainment, and some you can't. And this is one of the ones where you can't. But we're not doing it this way. This is the 2008 way. We're doing it the new and improved plug and charge way. So let's see if that works. Might be a little bit far away to reach. I might have to move up. Let me check. But here's the charging wrap. It says authenticate before plug-in. I don't think I need to because I think I'm cool and we'll do plug and charge. Let's see if that works. All right, we are connected. Yep, vehicle authorized. So once again, I use no app, I use no infotainment. I just connected and we are charging. That is extremely cool. Very, very cool. Now finally, ChargePoint is cool like Tesla. And non-Tesla vehicles can post up to ChargePoint stations and just plug in and charge. And after I shot that video, I reached out to a contact at ChargePoint to ask, because the press release mentions that this functionality is at, quote, many ChargePoint stations, but it didn't really specify which ones were, which ones weren't. And although I don't have a final answer, I did get a preliminary response back from someone at ChargePoint. Let me just read what they said. Confirming the functionality is dependent on the station model. So for instance, this one here, I don't know, I'll have to go look at the sticker, worked, but let me just finish reading. We have both AC and DC models in the field that support it today. So apparently you can plug and charge on AC at ChargePoint stations. The specific delineation of models is yet to be clarified, but at least I have that information. And others that will be enabled via over-the-air update at a later date. So not only do we have this one working and the other one that I mentioned closer to my house that's working, but they're going to continue to expand the pool of stations that this works on with over-the-air updates. And as I said, this is super easy for anyone who has a General Motors EV. If you want to enable plug and charge for ChargePoint, you just go into the My GM app and you just move the toggle switch over, and then you can come here and use plug and charge. No app, no credit card, just use plug and charge, and it works like a champ. So big news there. I personally think that is a major step ahead in the user experience for General Motors customers, because ChargePoint, these things, they're not high in stall count, but boy, are they all over the place. These little onesie twosies that are built into gas stations and libraries, municipal places. This particular one is a much larger charging hub. As you can see, they're going big with a very large retail facility behind me that I understand is going to be providing amenities to the charging station. This is a greenfield charging hub build in northern Charlotte metropolitan area, Mooresville, Lake Norman area. So this is kind of the exception to the rule. Most of them are like onesie twosie, but they're spread all over the place. So this could definitely be helpful in eliminating a little bit of friction for General Motors customers, and assumingly other OEMs will follow suit. Sticking with ChargePoint, one of their larger partners in the area around here is known as 7 States Power. They opened a new station in the parking lot of 175 Washington Street across from the Lost Pizza Company near Memphis in Collierville, Tennessee. It's ideal because of its proximity to the I-269 corridor and its access to food and retail. So congratulations, 7 State Power. They operate there in the Tennessee Valley Authority area, putting in electric vehicle charging stations, which I use. I went to Lexington, Kentucky in order to shoot the Power Up America ribbon cutting. And by the way, if you haven't seen the video on this channel for the Power Up America ribbon cutting, I recommend you go take a look. And I'm not trying to self-publicize. It's actually a pretty significant CPO that's up and coming with, they're saying their initial push will be 70 stations and then over 100 using Tesla Supercharger for Business, but also using ChemPower and MCS builds in Virginia. There's one location that they're already looking at for MCS builds for Tesla semis. And they're building into rural areas for municipalities that don't have depots for electrification of school buses. They could come to the Power Up America and they build their site specifically spec'd for those utility or those municipal type vehicles, trucks and school buses to come through their site and have a wider turning radius. And so it's a really cool spin on a focused product offering to rural America. And they've got many NEVI awards in Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky. And so it's worth a watch, is all I'm saying. And 7 States Power is operating in that same area and has built. But anyway, on my way back, I stopped at a 7 State Power at a Weigel's off Interstate 81. And really nice experience. These are 62.5 CP250s, but those were the ones that were using the power link between them and able to get over 100 kilowatts using those, attached to a travel center that had all the amenities you could want, clean restrooms within walking distance immediately off the interstate. So it was really nice. And 7 States is doing good work in that area of the country, opening a new station near Memphis. Next In the upper Pacific Northwest near Metro Vancouver, there is a CPO called BC Hydro. A friend of the show named Steve from Metro Vancouver, and he asked me to say this, the cool one, not the fake one in Washington. I don't know what that means, but he asked me to say that. Sent me this picture of a BC Hydro station, and I have the press release right here where they're talking about tripling their public charging network by 2035. So let me just read some of this summary. BC Hydro will deploy 3,500 public charging ports by 2035, creating one of Canada's largest public charging networks. The expansion will more than triple the size of BC Hydro's existing charging network and significantly increase capacity through the province. New charging hubs will be added to communities throughout British Columbia along major highways and high-demand urban areas. The plan includes faster charging technology, larger charging hubs, and new customer-focused features to improve reliability and convenience. And just a couple of quick facts. As of April 1, 2026, this is in the press release also, more than 238,000 light-duty zero-emission vehicles are registered in the province, that's British Columbia, up from 3,000 in 2015. It's a pretty significant increase. As of April 1st, 2026, there are more than 8,900 public charging ports in British Columbia, an increase of 87% from 2023. Of these, 6,599 were level 2 ports and more than 2,300 were fast charging ports. In 2025, the zero-emission vehicle sector added $2.1 billion direct and indirect to the British Columbia economy and employed a total of 16,400 people, 9,340 direct. So no slowing down in British Columbia. And if you're not aware, in the nation of Canada, BC is one of the highest adoption rates of electric vehicles in the nation. And I believe the reason is because of their cheap electricity. They actually have hydropower, and their electricity costs less there than in other areas of Canada. I'm not an expert, but I understood that to be the case. And British Columbia, at one point, had the highest adoption rate of electric vehicles in the entire nation of Canada. And so BC Hydro seems to be joining the fray and getting the more stations in the ground, tripling their footprint by 2035. A little bit less than 10 years from now. Next, to demonstrate their ability to be very late to the party, Illinois opened their first NEVI station. I guess better late than never. And it's at a Phillips 66 in Casey, Illinois, between Indianapolis and St. Louis on I-70. And it's a Electrify America commercial with Phillips 66 branded wrap. So I don't know if that means Phillips 66, the convenience store brand, is now the CPO of record for that location and starting to explore electric vehicle charging, or if this is just a one-off with a Phillips 66 wrapping on it. I'm not 100% sure. This is the first time I've seen Phillips 66 wrapped chargers, and these are Electrify America commercial chargers. Let me just read a post I picked up off LinkedIn from AAA Engineering Limited, which apparently participated in the build of this station. The first electric vehicle charging station built through the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program is now live and accepting customers. It was a great day for a great ribbon cutting ceremony this Wednesday. And thank you to Gina Biaggi and Illinois Department of Transportation and Angie Sandoval and Electrify America and Phillips 66 for supporting this effort. The station is the first one of many. NEVI Round 3 recipients were also announced today in the state of Illinois. And they mentioned that they're providing construction and monitoring service on behalf of Illinois Department of Transportation for the construction of all NEVI sites in Illinois. So AAA Engineering Limited won a big contract there because there's going to be a ton, apparently, of NEVI sites getting built throughout the state of Illinois. The first one is now open. Okay, pivoting a little bit to EVgo, they had a crusty press release back from 2024 mentioning that they were going to be doing flagship builds with General Motors Energy, but it never really materialized, except we started to get word. Specifically, I was hearing from Dan the EV Man, the YouTuber who's been on this channel before, that there was a site that was getting a rip and replace refresh. And let me just read, he was mentioning that it's right next to the main General Motors Technical Center campus, which is right across the street, which is kind of curious. And when he was there a couple of weeks ago, it was all CCS, but we now see some NACS cables at this station, and really beautiful. And when you look at the press release for the flagship stations, and you look at this station, it really looks like a flagship station. And I mean, right across from the main technical campus for General Motors, it kind of is all lining up that these flagship stations that had been announced going on 2 years ago that never really materialized might actually start to be happening. And we might be looking at what is the first one. It's a little frustrating that we don't have official word from General Motors or EVgo saying, hey, we opened our first flagship station or anything like that. We are just looking and left to kind of read the tea leaves and connect the dots ourselves. But this beautiful looking station, my goodness, I think it's 14 stalls and some NAC J3400 CCS underneath the canopy with attached amenities at a Meyer, and right across from the main General Motors Technical Campus. Something to keep our eyes on. Now, speaking of larger stations, the Tesla Supercharger team opened it's 48 stalls, but only 44 stalls were entered in the alternative fuels data center database. It's very common when they open up these stations, they put the entry in with the number of stalls that are open at the time of the opening of the station, but it looks like it's going to be a total of 48 stalls. Right now I see 44 in the alternative fuels data center database. And my personal opinion, what's remarkable is not that they opened a 48 stall station, which is remarkable, but is that they opened this massive station. And I think it's the same count as the one they did in Ajax, Ontario. If you recall from a few weeks ago, is the largest electric vehicle charging station in the nation of Canada. Got all kinds of press. This one didn't. They just opened it, and it's like Tuesday, That happened. Oh, well, normal, completely normal for Tesla. And it's the largest station in the nation. It matches the largest station in the nation of Canada. And it's just like another day at the office here in the United States. And my opinion is that's what's remarkable, is that the level of execution for the Tesla Supercharger team has gotten to a expectation level where they open up a 48 stall station in Fort Lauderdale and everyone's like, okay, well, that's not noteworthy. That's pretty normal. And that's what I think is noteworthy. The station is right on the west edge of the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport at a Fairfield Inn. It's also right off Interstate 95, very close to where Interstate 75 terminus is after originating all the way up in Michigan. If people are familiar with Interstate 75 at Sault Ste. Marie in Canada, and then it comes all the way down and stretches north to south and ends right near here at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, and Port Everglades is where Interstate 75 actually terminates. Actually, the signage changes a little bit prior to that to 595, but it's 75 continued, and then it terminuses right there. So if anyone ever travels the length of Interstate 75, you'll have a 48 stall Tesla Supercharger station waiting for you at the end of your trip in the Sunshine State. Lastly, IONNA, acknowledging the approaching close of the summer road trip season, posted a fun little thing into socials. I picked it up off LinkedIn. Road trip suggestions. I'm just going to go over this very quickly. I read it through it, and I would agree. They seem to have some valid points here. Leave room for discovery. Instead of just doing a beeline from point A to point B, leave a little space in order to meander a bit, go off the beaten path and find some places to explore, because the journey is part of the destination. Build flexibility into your itinerary for spontaneous detours and local stops. 2, map your route early. Utilize tools like PlugShare, Google Maps, and Find Rechargery Map to establish your route. I do that. Instead of letting just the infotainment pick my stops for me, I like to choose my stops. 3, set up before you roll. Take 5 minutes at home to check for updates in your preferred app. And that's definitely true. If you're going to be going to charging stations with CPOs you haven't used in a while, make sure the app you're going to be using is updated and your credentials are entered, so you don't have to fumble with your credentials, and your payment option is correct. And then once you get to the station, you don't have to fumble with it when you arrive there. 4. Recharge the whole crew. Treat charging times as a true break. Stretch your legs, grab a snack, use our squeegees, or relax in our driver lounges while your EV juices up. 5. Pack for the journey. Throw in a basic roadside kit. Check your tire pressure. Checking your tire pressure is one of those things you could actually improve your efficiency if your tire pressure is correctly set. And let everyone pick a game or playlist so the whole car feels like part of the adventure. Thanks for watching.